Good evening once again and welcome back to our coverage of the Northern Territory election. Let's take a look at the scoreboard as it stands right now. As far as we're willing to predict, we're certain that Labor has won 8 seats. As it stands right now, the CLP guaranteed just one, that being Leah Finocchiaro's seat of Spilett, and Independents have won 2 seats in Mulka and Goyder. I want to bring in my good friend Charles Croucher, who's also been crunching some numbers. Charles, we've given Labor 8, but definitely they are in a very positive position in many other seats. They would be confident at the moment, wouldn't they? Because I don't think, let's face it, that the CLP or the Independents or Territory Alliance have really got enough to cobble together anything else.
No, well, CLP certainly don't. You know, having just 1 seat at the moment, now there are several they may win, there are some they might win, but it's a long way from 1, that is Spilett, Leah Finocchiaro's seat, all the way to 13, which you need to govern in your own right. And, you know, some of those seats there ahead, you could say Barclay, Blaine, Nelson, OK, there's 4. Then we get to the dicey ones, maybe Catherine, maybe Brennan, maybe Daly, maybe Blaine. There's 8, and that's with some of the maybes in there. And then you have to start really reaching to somewhere like Port Darwin or Namatjira. OK, there's 10, still well short of 13 you need, and then we have to start doing deals with the 2 independents we see there. So while Labor haven't got enough yet to govern in their own right, what we can certainly say is the CLP don't appear to be able to govern in their own right. And given what you would have to do bringing together all these different parties, particularly given, you know, some of those smaller independents are in the seats we've just given hypothetically to the CLP, it's just not going to happen. So Labor is in a very strong position to govern for 4 more years. They
are indeed. Let's take a look at the 2 independents who we are mentioning. They look to be holding their seats. And let's start with Goyder and Kezia Purik there. Earlier on in the count, we thought that she might have been in trouble, but the numbers are certainly coming back in her direction right now.
They are, and even though those numbers there are tight, you can see the lead isn't huge. 69% of that vote is counted. The preferences that are flowing through on the official electoral tally website, that is not what's been given, this is actually the votes counted, have Kezia at about 57.4%, a lead of 600 votes. Given she is the sitting member, given she is an established member, she is a royalty down there, and given her role in the parliament in the past, that's enough for us to say safely that she will retain that seat of Goyder and will play a part in the next parliament.
Let's talk about Mulka. I know we talked about it briefly before. It's been a topsy-turvy, but at the moment, Mark Goyler looks like he's going to have another 4 years as well.
He is, and a swing to him. This is a great story. Mark Goyler has done it tough to fight for that seat. He is the only independent Indigenous member of the NT Parliament, and he has extended his lead there in a 2-party preferred head-to-head with Lynn Walker, a well-known member of the Labor Party. You'll notice just 57% of the vote counted. That seems low. It is significant, though, because that's about all the vote that was counted in the 2016 electorate. This is an electorate with a low turnout. It's something that the NTEC will try and boost in future years. But that's about, in fact, there have been more votes counted this time around than there were in total counted last time. So the fact that that lead has grown from just 8 votes in 2016 to almost 400 now is enough for us to say that Mark Goyler will get 4 more years in the Territory Parliament, and a huge effort given all that he has worked for and all that he is going to work for, I think, in this next Parliament. And given how much closer it will be this time around, he'll have a bigger role to play.
One of those maybes you mentioned off the top was Port Darwin. It is held by Paul Kirby. At the moment, he's marginally in front.
Yeah, a really close one there. That's Port Darwin is a seat that Labor would hope and Labor would be looking to sort of retain. A 3-cornered contest. Timothy Parish with his 7% for the Greens. That's enough to get him up. 63% of the vote. Look, given he has incumbency, you always account for some when it comes to votes coming in beforehand. This is certainly not a lock for Labor, but any lead is a good lead. The question is what happens with Territory Alliance preferences, and that's something that we thought we'd ask a bit at the start of the night.
Well, that's right. This is one of these seats, only 3 in the NT election this year, that the Territory Alliance is actually preferencing Labor in this seat.
Yeah, so if those preferences flow...
If people follow those how to vote cards, although, as we know, so many people went to the polls early, so maybe they didn't.
Yeah, exactly. But you'd given the 7% there to the Greens. You assume that swings to Labor, so then things really have to start falling right for Toby George. That's a big loss if it falls that way for the CLP. It's one of those seats they had to win. Look, it's one of those seats they might win, but it's highly unlikely to be enough. If it's not like there's a big uniform swing going their way that would have them confident of that one.
OK, Charles, thank you. We'll come back to you very shortly, but I want to take you now live to Kathleen Gazzola at Labor HQ with Nicole Madison. Congratulations to Nicole, the Deputy Chief Minister, and another term in office for her. Over to you, Kathleen.
Yes, that's right. Congratulations, Nicole. Obviously looking very positive for Labor at the moment.
It is looking positive. I will be really relieved when I see 13 seats looking firm, but at the moment I'm feeling positive. I'm feeling good.
So, I mean, obviously haven't reached that magical number of 13, but there was speculation of 15 that the party insiders were suggesting could be the way.
Well, we never took any seat for granted. We worked very hard in all 25, and we knew that you have to put in a hard campaign. You had to have hard-working candidates, and you had to understand the local issues and what were important to people. So there are a lot of seats still in play. The voting changes that we've seen so many people pre-poll this time, it has made it in many ways, it's quite a painful, slow process to look at how slow the voting is going in the count. We knew it could be a late night tonight, and for some of those seats, they're very close. They might take days to figure out. So I'm looking forward. I'm hoping that we can get to that 13 nice and firm, but frankly, I'd like to get a few more, but we'll see.
What are the crucial seats that you want to see get across the line from here on in?
Oh, look, I will take any of those seats, Kat. I am just so proud of each and every one of our candidates. We had a magnificent field of candidates with really strong experience in a wide range of industries, sectors, backgrounds here, but they're just magnificent people. I'm just so proud of them all, and I'm just hoping we can get as many over the line as possible.
The Chief Minister ruled out doing any kind of deals to form a minority government if it does come to that. Do you support that decision?
Well, we've said that we will not be going into those types of deals, so we'll see how tonight goes. So let's just see where we end up landing with the number of seats. We've still got a lot of votes to count, but from where I'm sitting right now, I'd rather be in our seat than the CLP's.
Well, that's right. So why back yourself into the corner of saying absolutely no deals? Because if it does come to that, you would have to come to some kind of arrangement, wouldn't you?
I think it's really important that when Territorians have a government, they know what they're dealing with, and they don't see a government that's beholden to other parties or other individuals, that they know that they've got a strong agenda and they're able to go out there and push forward with that agenda, particularly at a time like this, when people need certainty when it comes to jobs, when people need certainty when it comes to making sure they're taking care of people through the challenges we're still facing with coronavirus. They're not going away anytime soon, Kat, so I'm really hoping that we get there to form that government in our own right.
But ultimately, that is the voters' decision. If you are in a minority government, that was ultimately their call. So how would that work in that scenario?
Again, I just think we're still a while out. There are a lot of seats in play. Right now, we really are focused on forming a majority government. Let's see how the seats play out. I'm hoping we can get some form of result tonight. But like I said, this early voting, it's been great to see lots of people pre-poll. I think it's made more people go in, participate, get in there and vote. However, the counting process is not a quick one. It's a bit different, and nobody quite knew what to expect tonight about how the Electoral Commission would go about it. So we're just holding and waiting to see some more seats come in.
We've heard the Chief Minister is still potentially a while off. Have you spoken to him tonight?
I haven't spoken to Michael. I've spoken to some of the team that are certainly with them at the moment, but no, today's one of the days I haven't spoken to Michael all day, and that's such a rarity for me. So I'm really looking forward to speaking to Michael soon, and I'm hoping, it's because we can say that we think we're going to be able to form government. There's no guarantees that will happen tonight, given, again, we just need to see how this counting process goes.
There was a lot of discussion around campaigning on coronavirus. I suppose in some ways, could you read into this that was the right way to go?
It's the number one issue at the front of people's minds. I think we all can see what a huge risk coronavirus presents to the health of Territorians. We have a very vulnerable population here. but also we've seen what a devastating impact it has on the economy. For example, in Victoria, to see them go into lockdown not once but twice, that is really difficult for businesses to have to get themselves back up on their feet again, and we don't want to put our businesses through that. So we will continue doing whatever it takes when it comes to saving lives and saving jobs and making sure that we have strong businesses there so we can grow our economy into the future.
And obviously a big task ahead to manage the economy heading out of this as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Nicole.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you.
Back to you, Jono.
We do appreciate it. Thank you, Nicole, and thank you, Kathleen. One of the seats that at the moment we aren't giving Labor, but they are in front. Let's check out the seat of Arafura. Charles, I'll bring you back in. Let's have a look at these numbers. Lawrence Costa, the sitting member, and he's marginally in front at the moment.
Marginally in front, the 44% that counted is what's keeping us from putting that in Labor's column. I would say this one's pretty close to going that way. Much like we spoke about with Mulca, this is one of those regional, quite vast seats, hard to poll everyone. He's currently 150 votes ahead when those two-party votes are swung through, particularly with the Green. And there was only 2,383 votes in total counted there in 2016. Now, given all the complications around collecting votes in times of Corona in particular, we're getting pretty close to that number now, and that's why Labor would be pretty confident that Lawrence Costa will be the 9th seat, Arafura, the 9th seat we put in Labor's column tonight.
Let's move on now to Palmerston and the seat of Drysdale. Charles, Eva Lawler is the sitting member and doing it well.
Doing it really well. It's a great number for Eva Lawler. She would become the first Labor member to retain a seat in Drysdale. You mentioned it a little earlier on. This is one of those seats where the Territory Alliance actually preference Labor. On two-party preferred, Eva Lawler is ahead by 500 votes. That should just about be enough to be the 10th seat we will hand over to the Labor Party.
Breitling is a very interesting seat down in Central Australia. Let's take a look at the numbers there. Dale Wakefield is the sitting member, but certainly as far as primaries are concerned, the CLP candidate, Joshua Burgoyne, doing well.
Yeah, doing it tough, Dale Wakefield there. Now, this is going to be a really interesting seat to see. You would say with 36% of the vote, that should be enough for Joshua Burgoyne to pick up that seat for the CLP. It's one of those ones the CLP on their path to potentially government would have had really early on. Dale Wakefield is only sitting on 22% of the primary vote. To put that bluntly, that means 4 out of 5 people that have been counted so far voted for someone else. However, that's one of those seats where Territory Alliance is preferencing to Labor. It's one of those seats where the Independent, I think, is preferencing to Labor as well, or hasn't preferenced at all. So you can see how those smaller tallies might start stacking up and could just get Dale Wakefield across the line if postal votes are preferable to her. That one, not so certain, and it's so hard to eventually gather enough votes if you're only getting 22% of the primary vote. But look, there's still a third of the votes out there, and if that number grows, if that margin narrows, that could become something we see a lot more of later on.
And the interesting part about this seat, Charles, there are 7 candidates down there. Yeah. The preferences flow. Well, that could take us some days to get a result there, couldn't it?
It could, and again, one of those ones where we should see a higher proportion, a higher turnout, but I don't think we'll be calling that one tonight.
OK, look, we are hearing in some breaking news that Leah Finocchiaro is on her way to CLP headquarters. So when she does arrive, we will bring you the very latest information from Leah. Of course, at the moment, stands just the one CLP member who we are willing to call at the moment. So anyway, let's move on. We'll have a look at the seat of Daly. Now, this one really has tightened up. I know earlier in the day I said it might be the drinks on the bar with Ian Sloan, but these numbers certainly seem a bit tighter now.
They are. Daly is a seat that we thought we had put in the CLP column earlier on and had to move away. We know these sort of outer regional seats have very big swings depending on where in the issue. Anthony Venus has contested this before. He's well known. The 7% of the Greens will likely flow to him. So we get ourselves to 42% there, maybe 43%. Regina McCarthy and the Territory Alliance. Where do the preferences flow there? She was preferencing Ian Slow, preferencing the CLP. How loyal have people been to those how to vote cards? This one we won't be calling tonight either.
I don't think we'll be calling Brennan either, Charles. Let's take a look at the numbers there. Tony Sievers is the sitting member, but look, facing a challenge from Conservatives. And Peter Chandler's an interesting character, even though he's only got a couple of hundred votes. It will be interesting to see how his preferences flow through, potentially to Marie-Claire Boothby.
Yeah, Marie-Claire Boothby is ahead on the official two-party preferred count. So while she trails there to Tony Sievers, in the first preferences. The preferences from Abram Mebap and from Peter Chandler have gone the other way, have gone to the Conservative side. From my count here, from the official count, she leads 51-49, that is percentages, and leads by around 70 votes. That would be enough to get her across the line, but there are still a lot of votes to come. And as we saw with Drysdale, these Palmerston seats just aren't usually held and certainly not usually retained by the ALP. This is probably a recorrecting, a returning to the norm from the wipeout in 2016. That's one that will probably fall in the CLP in the long run.
We heard from Terry Mills earlier. He wasn't willing to concede Blaine, but look, he should.
Yeah, interesting to hear Terry Mills talk about preference flows earlier on. When there's only 3 candidates, he is the preference flow. It's his preferences that will flow.
He'll be the kingmaker here, won't he, Terry, once again?
Yeah, he will. His votes will decide where it goes. Now, you would say Mark Turner, as we spoke about earlier, Matthew Curl's got 35% of the vote there primaries. That means 2 out of 3 people voted for someone else. And it's difficult, it's possible, but it's difficult to then stack up enough of those first preferences from Terry Mills to get across the line. But you would assume, Terry Mills being a former CLP leader, you would think that will be Conservative voters that are voting for him and therefore might be inclined, to, in some situations, fall back on their original thought, fall back to the CLP and in those Palmerston seats fall back to what's become the norm, and that is the CLP winning them. However, this is one that Labor were confident about going in. This is one that perhaps they were more confident than some of those ones we've already put in their tally so far or have swinging towards them. They reckon Mark Turner, tiny as he's known, is a great candidate, and they reckon he's worked that electorate really, really well. So maybe he didn't get their first preferences, but if you've had that bloke on your doorstep, if you've spoken to him...
You're not going to forget it, are you?
Exactly. Maybe it's enough to get him as number 2 behind Terry Mills. We'll see. He's got a lot of work to do still from 41%, but you'd rather have 41% of first preferences than 35.
Yeah, indeed. OK, let's talk about Fong Lim. Jeff Collins won this seat for Labor at the last election, this time contesting for Territory Alliance. But as we can see, Mark Monaghan certainly has some decent numbers. Although at this stage, look, this is one seat where the numbers haven't actually been coming through. It's still only 20% of the vote counted.
Yeah, we've seen a real pause in the numbers there. Mark Monaghan with a big lead. That's one that we might be here for a while. Jeff Collins has seen enough, though. We haven't seen a number, I don't think, for about 2 hours. And yet Jeff Collins, I understand, is ready to concede. So he might know things from scrutineers that we don't. It will be interesting to see where those preferences flow. Look, this is going to be the difference between perhaps the ALP governing with a healthy, a majority of, say, 15 seats in total or 14 seats in total in the parliament, or them governing in those bare bones of 13 seats or 12 with an independent speaker. It's these kind of seats, the ones we've just spoken about, those 2 in Palmerston, Fong Lim here, we'll see what happens in Blaine. Like, they're the ones that are going to play through and ultimately decide not only if Michael Gunner governs in his own right, but just how healthy that governing is, or if it's in that minority government. The reason that we just heard Kat Gazzola push so much about the idea of making a deal. If you've only got 12 seats in the parliament as Labor, sure, you can form a government, but you've got to do an alliance or a deal with someone. And so ruling that out before the votes are in could be something they regret if these seats all fall the other way. Now, we've said time and time again, you'd rather be where Labor is.
Indeed.
And
okay.
certainly they'll be there.
Look, one of the good things for the country Liberals tonight seems to be down in Nelson, and Gerard Maley is doing quite well.
Yeah, I think this is probably the second seat we'd put in their column. We know that Jerry Wood pulled his support behind Beverly Ratahi there. She was the independent candidate. Steve Asher flying the flag for Labor, even with the Territory Alliance. If Gerard Maley is polling more than 50% of the primary votes already, a third of the votes are in. There'll be more on their way. Given there is no incumbent, that's one that you can probably put in the CLP's column. OK, now as we're saying this, this is live pictures. Leah Finocchiaro just arriving at the CLP. So look, looks like she's about to speak. Let's go to it. Leah Finocchiaro, the leader of the Country Liberals.
Evening by acknowledging the Larrakia people whose land we gather today. If I can work the microphone. Family, friends, party members and supporters. Tonight I am proud to lead an outstanding team who have worked tirelessly to show Territorians that they do have a choice for a better future and a better government going forward. It is very important. on the journey we have been on. As an opposition of just two, we have had to pick our battles. We have had to work tirelessly to hold a bad Labor government to account, and we have done that. We have done that, and we have done that, and held the Country Liberal name with great esteem and with great pride. And as a party, we have rebuilt and we have strengthened our resolve, because the Territory needs us. It needs the Territory Party. It needs the Country Liberal Party to be that strong Conservative voice for people right across the Northern Territory, to back Territorians who want to have a go, to fight for what is right and for what is fair. And that is what Territorians deserve, and that is why we are the Country Liberal Party, the Territory Party. I want to say thank you. I want to say to all Territorians tonight, no matter where you live, we heard you. We heard you when you said you wanted to live in safe communities. You want to be safe in your business. You want to be safe in your homes. We heard you when you said law and order was a huge issue across the Territory. And that's why we have policies to address those issues, because they matter to you, and what matters to you matters to us. And we heard you when you said you're worried about your jobs and your job security. You're worried about our economy and the decline that has meant our friends and family have left the Territory, and you want it to stop. And we heard you, and we delivered on that economic platform, because we recognise that it is critical to going forward, that we have that growth, that we back the private sector, that we bring back that Territory can-do spirit, and that is what we delivered to Territorians this election campaign. We responded, we listened, and like the true Territory Party, we responded, and that is a credit to everyone. We have a plan that backs the Territory. We have a plan that supports that all-important growth in our private sector. We have a plan for our economic future. And we made those unequivocal commitments to Territorians that we would put their safety first, that we would put the safety of Territorians first and victims first, and ensure we end this endless spiral upwards of crime right across the Territory. We made those commitments, and they stand true. They're as true today as they were yesterday, and they always will be, because that is what we believe in. And of course, tonight, right across the Territory, we have seen thousands of Territorians vote to support that comprehensive, costed plan to build a better Territory. Thousands of Territorians voted in Darwin, in Palmerston, in Katherine, in Alice Springs, in Tennant Creek, in our regions and out bush. Thousands of Territorians thanked us, and because we responded to their calls for change. Friends and supporters, we have mounted a terrific campaign, and we couldn't have done it without you, and with the support of Territorians right around the Territory who put up their hands to have a go, to make a difference, to stand up for something that they believe in, and most importantly, because we are proud and passionate Territorians who want to see a better future for our children and for their children. And our team, how good is our team? To lead the Country Liberal Party, but I am prouder to lead a team of candidates that are strong, that are diverse, that are experienced, and that have the best interests of the Northern Territory heart. And tonight is a credit to each and every one of you for doing an excellent job and standing up for what you believe in. So thank you. I want to acknowledge each and every one of them, because it's very, very important. We've got our man, Gibson Farmer in Arafura, of course. Where's Gibbo? The man whose heart absolutely beats for Alice Springs, Damien Ryan in Araluen. Out and about right across Arnhem Land, we've got Jerry Amato. Of course, our shining light in the Barclays, Steve Edgington. And taking up the fight in Blaine, Matthew Curl. Our gun in Breitling, Josh Burgoyne. The amazing Marie-Claire Boothby in Brennan. Tony Schelling, working hard out on the ground out there in Casuarina. Everyone's favourite publican, Ian Sloan in Daly. Our magnificent candidate in Drysdale, Leanne Butler. And how good is Tracy Hayes taking the fight up to Michael Gunner? Good on you, Tracy. our committed Kylie Benani and Fong Lim. Out across the rural area, of course, we've got our 100% rural boy, Jared Maley. And of course, absolute top bloke, all-rounder, Phil Batty out in Goyder. Philip Alice, a gallant in the vast electorate of Wodja. Thank you, Philip. Gary Haslett putting his best foot forward in Johnston. Well done, Gary. Thank you. Of course, Brian O'Gallagher fighting absolutely ferociously out in Karama. We have amazing Jo Hersey, who has not stopped from the minute she got pre-selected down in Katherine. Our hard-working Bill Yan in Namatjira. Steve Doherty taking up the fight in Nightcliff. Good on you, Steve. Toby George, of course, fighting hard in Port Darwin. Derek Mager going hard in Sanderson. And, of course, Jed Hansen working hard in Wangari. That is our team. That is the Country Liberal Party 2020 team. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so proud, as I said, of this strong and diverse team, this group of Territorians with real experience and skin in the game. And one more round of applause to that amazing team, please, ladies and gentlemen. Now, there are a few other thank yous I'd like to give tonight. First and foremost, of course, our amazing Country Liberal Party campaign team, and executive team, ably led by our campaign director, Sally Ann Innes. Thank you, Sally Ann. And, of course, party president, Ron Kelly. These guys have been on the job. They have been working hard. They have been supporting our terrific team of candidates. And tonight is a credit to you and your dedication, and I thank you very, very much on behalf of the party. I'd also like to thank you, all of our amazing volunteers, the people who letterbox drops, door knocks with candidates, stuffed envelopes, no matter what your contribution was, small or large. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We could not do this without you, so thank you. It's also really important that I thank Gary Higgins, the former Country Liberal Party leader. He led us out of the 2016 election for 3 years and helped us to rebuild. And Gary, thank you very much. Thank you very much for all you've done for our party. Of course, I'd like to thank my staff, but none more so than Angie, who is my absolute rock. Thank you, Angie. I know you're out there somewhere. I can't see you, but I know you'll be there. She's been with me every step of the way. And, of course, my family, my mum and dad and my parents-in-law, they are an amazing support to my family. Of course, you well know that Sam and I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and that presents certain logistical challenges, shall we say. And if it was not for my parents and my parents-in-law, we would not be able to do what we do, and they have enabled me every step of the way. So thank you very, very much to them. And, of course, my amazing husband, Sam. I don't know where he is. I couldn't get him on stage, but that's all right. Sam, you are amazing. You have been the best mum and the best dad for our beautiful children, and I absolutely take my hat off to you. You have led the charge at home, and I'll owe you forever. Thank you so much, darling. You've been amazing. You've been amazing. Of course, to Isla and Isaac, I will see you tomorrow, I promise. We will be spending time together tomorrow. And of course, you know, speaking of our children, that's why we do this. That's why we get out of bed every single day, because we want to build a better territory, and we want to do it for our kids, and we want to do it for their kids. And we believe they should have every opportunity in life and live in this beautiful place we call the Northern Territory, full of jobs, full of opportunity, safe in our community, and that's the legacy that the Country Liberal Party want to leave to the future generations of Territorians out there today. So thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much. I love the language very much. What a wonderful you are.
Just a few weeks ago at our campaign launch, I talked about the early days of the Country Liberal Party, and I said that I wanted to lead a new generation of the CLP to harness that can-do territory spirit, and we can do that once again. And just like Paul Everingham and his team in 1978, I want to start a new generation of the CLP, and we've done that tonight here in 2020 with our capable team of candidates, so thank you. And the next generation very much starts tonight, and if there's you know, there are still a lot of votes to count. There are still a lot of votes to count. But if there is one thing I know, it is that the CLP is back. Our new team, there is one thing Territorians can know, and I can tell them right now, our team will work fiercely, we will work tirelessly, and we will do it for you because we believe in this place, we believe in you, we care about what you care about, and we will always fight for what's right, and we will always put Territorians first. And that is an ironclad guarantee to Territorians this evening. We know that tonight Territorians have voted for jobs, they have voted for safety, and they have voted for opportunity. And I'm so proud to be here this evening with you all. Thank you very much. Enjoy the night, and I look forward to speaking to you all as I come around later. So thank you so much.
Well, there you have it, the Country Liberals leader, Leah Finocchiaro. How about the energy? Just fantastic. You'd think that was more of a victory speech rather than a concession, because at the moment, as it stands, the Country Liberals just have the one seat that we're willing to call. Potentially could end up with half a dozen or so. They certainly are leading in a couple of other seats, so you can understand her positivity. Charles, I'll bring you in. Really interesting to hear from her tonight. As I mentioned, just great energy, remaining really positive. And let's go back 4 years ago, because we remember then Adam Giles' speech when of course, the Country Liberals only had the two members of Parliament.
Yeah, Leah Finocchiaro spoke about that, the opposition of just two. It was early in her speech. You're right about it had a different sound to it. To me, that sounded like a campaign launch speech.
It almost did, didn't it?
Going
That's
through each
right.
of the candidates, talking about the future.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what it is.
Well, she finished it off with, it starts tonight. The CLP is back.
Exactly, and maybe that's what this is. Maybe she is, you know, she's only had the top job for a short period of time. It's been a big change from where it was. There's been upheavals constantly in that leadership from Terry Mills, and then through Adam Giles' years, we know there was the, you know, William Wester van Holter took the leadership out for a walk for 5 minutes one night and then lost it again. So maybe that's what this was, a chance to launch the Country Liberals for 4 years' time. What she doesn't know, what we don't know, is how big that Country Liberals team would be. We assume it's going to be more than the two they have now, but just how powerful and how much of a voice they can say in the Territory will depend on how many seats they have. And you're right, as you said at the end, still a lot of votes to count, but if there's one thing I know, Leah Finocchiaro said, it is the CLP is back, and it's almost certain, and something else that speech did was all but assure that she leads the CLP, whatever it looks like in the Parliament, as the only one with parliamentary experience.
And Charles, what does a speech like that do for rousing the troops?
Well, I think they would like to see a victory speech, right? They want to go there and celebrate. So what that says is that it laid out the foundations, and she spoke about a new generation of the CLP, and I think that's what she was, and what that speech was doing, was laying out what the CLP would stand for in what has been a generational wipeout. It started 4 years ago, it is continued, and they've built on that number today. But as you mentioned so rightly, you know, 4 years ago, Adam Giles and Dave Tyler were talking about the end of the CLP. That's clearly not the case. There are the votes there to support. There may not be the seats in the Parliament that we expected, but if the CLP end up with 6 or 7, then that's a very credible opposition. It is an opportunity to get everyone with some experience to establish roots in some of the old CLP seats, and then put yourself in a position to launch in 4 years' time if need be.
And I was looking at those pictures. That was an absolute genuine smile from Leah Finocchiaro. We see stage smiles all the time in politics, don't we? But that one, she seems genuinely happy with how she's performed, given where the CLP was this time 4 years ago.
Well, given how much threat there was that the CLP wouldn't be the opposition. You know, just last year the CLP weren't the opposition for a while there when the Territory Alliance appeared and there were more independents in the Parliament than CLP. I think at the end of tonight, the CLP is going to be quite clearly the opposition. She will quite clearly be the opposition leader, and, you know, it's a real stepping stone. Maybe in 4 years' time they'll look back on tonight as the night it all began, as Leah Finocchiaro said in her speech.
OK, Charles, thank you very much. We'll leave it there with you for the moment. I want to bring in a live shot now as we take a short break. This is the Labor headquarters. We are expecting to hear from Michael Gunner. We're hearing maybe in the next 15 minutes or so. You won't miss a thing here on Channel 9, so stay with us. You're watching The Territory Decides, our election coverage in 2020.